Science officer, shields forward! Done! Okay, engineering, flood the first tank! Now, ensign, drop anchor!
What? We don't have an anchor.
Yeah, what do you mean?
We're a spaceship, not a boat ship.
Forward sail to half mast? Hi everybody, welcome to GameGorgon. My name is Krug.
I'm Indigo.
And we don't actually think that's how this works at all. Please don't click off this video. It's just a funny introduction. Today we're here to talk to you about starship combat in Starfinder.
Now, we have done an episode previously to kind of give you the base information of what a lot of the terminology that we're going to be using is. And go see that if you haven't. If this is the first episode that you're watching, I suggest seeing that. But if you have a basis...
We made this with that video in mind.
Yeah.
So if you're like, what the f*** are you talking about? It's because you haven't watched the other one yet.
Exactly. So the main aspect of ship combat is that every player has a different position within the ship.
Don't demonetize us for that word, please. Thank you, YouTube.
Ship?
Position.
There are 5 key roles, which is the captain, the engineer, the science officer, the pilot, and...
The gunner.
The gunner! I knew I was going to forget one of them. Each key position is going to have a different set of actions that they can do and have specific phases in which they can do them. Mm-hmm. We're going to go over phases later, but we're going to start with the captain. Now, the captain's main goal is to either buff or debuff the enemy, right? So
buff his allies.
Yes.
Or debuff the enemy.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's not buffing the enemy ever.
No.
That's not how any combat works in any
game.
game.
That would be interesting, because so one of the actions they can have is called demand.
Okay.
Where they roll an intimidation check on one of their own crew members.
Oh.
And give them a +4 to one specific roll.
Nice.
Now, if you fail and it's with an NPC, it can actually have negative repercussions associated with it. But I'm just imagining like the commander of the ship or the captain of the ship demanding something from the other ship.
Or demand that you
succeed at your science
roll better.
Oh, I got +4, thanks, guys. And so that's kind of how the captain works, is like they can buff them. The 2 key ones, like I said, is demand, and the other one is encourage, which gives them a +2 to a specific roll, but you have to succeed at the same roll in which you're trying to get them to succeed at.
Okay, so the DC is set by the DC that your crewmate is trying to overcome.
Yeah, there's a set rule of DCs that you have. We're not going to go into them because there's the core rulebook DCs, and then there's the errata DCs, which Paizo has published. But then there's also going to be new ship combat rules in one of their new books that's coming out.
Yes, that's a lot of stuff that is like going to invalidate some of the things.
Well, I'm hoping that the new rules don't invalidate this.
Right, but the numbers, if they're releasing changes, like that's the first place that's going to get hit almost certainly.
And that's kind of why we're not going over specific DCs.
And we also don't want to go over the old and the new numbers, but we will have a link to the errata in the description if you want to check them out yourselves and use them. It's important that you do. That's how games work. They get updated over time. Mm-hmm. The captain can also taunt. Taunting is going to allow them to give the enemy a -2 penalty to their next check on whatever phase they're rolling in. Mm-hmm. And it's important to note that the captain can act on any phase. Mm-hmm. That's like one of the freedoms afforded to them by their position. Huh. And so they could. It's basically kind of the all-encompassing role, right? The one that is there to support everyone, and so therefore it can act on any phase.
Yeah, and it's important to note that the captain, as well as all the other positions, only gets 1 action per round.
Right.
So while we've named 3 different things, they can only choose 1 of them per round.
Right.
So it's very key to choose specifically where you're going to be at.
Yes.
Like for example, if you're on the piloting phase, which again, I know we haven't talked about, and you taunt your enemy, they have a -2 on all of their piloting skills, or any skill checks that would be made on the piloting phase.
Which would include checks that their captain would make on the piloting phase.
Exactly. They would get -2 for 1d4 rounds, which is that's what's really strong about this, is that it's not just that specific phase or that specific round.
Yes.
It's that phase for X amount of rounds.
Yeah, so if you roll a 4 and you're just like spamming that action, you could potentially get them to like a -2 on all of their phases for a specific round if you're just like hitting high numbers on that D4 constantly.
And what's great is that it is an intimidate or a bluff check. So depending on what kind of a captain or character that you're playing, it can really play really well to two different types of strengths.
Yeah, so it's either like, oh, I have this huge gun that you don't know that I have, but it can one-shot you, nana boo boo, bluff, or intimidate, like, I will legitimately ram this ship into you if you don't
give up.
Yeah, like I will go through anything to destroy you.
Yeah.
Which, like, thinking about the flavor of this, and I won't talk too much about this because I know it's not what it's about, but thinking about the flavor of ship combat opens up a whole new world of, like, saying mean things to people, which is, like, one of the fun parts of role-playing, right? Is saying obscenely mean things to people, and this is, like, a great place to do that. Sorry, that's my flavor. Krug's flavor tip of the day.
Being mean to each other.
Nope. Just gonna undo that. Just gonna cut that out of the video. Just gonna clip. No, I'm not even editing this.
Next is the engineer. Now, the engineer can do a couple of different things. One key thing that they can do is actually repair the ship. The engineer is going to, guess what? Go during the engineer phase.
Oh, because that matches the name of it.
Yep, exactly. Again, captain can choose to go through this. Some of the different aspects that they can do is they've got hold it together and patch. Now, hold it together is a skill check that the engineer has to continuously make over and over again. And what it is that if you have a system that is has critical damage to it, it actually counts as if it were 2 steps lower than it actually is.
Right.
Now the issue is that while it's 2 steps, that person is basically stuck on that roll every single round doing that. As soon as they stop, it goes right back up.
Yep. So it's basically you using your skill to make it so that even though this is super broken, you found a workaround, but you have to keep like doing stuff to it, you know, to make it still work.
You're holding it together.
Holding it together.
Yep. The other is patch. Now, patch is dropping a critical condition down by 1 step. Now, depending on what its current threshold is at, determines how many rounds it will take.
Okay.
So the higher it up, it will take, so if it's at full critical, it'll take 3 different rounds for you to succeed at a check for it to drop down permanently by 1.
Until it's damaged again.
Yes, exactly.
Not like permanently,
No.
like it can't be moved, but
correct.
You don't have to continue using your action to maintain its new state.
Exactly. So yeah, it drops it down until it takes additional damage, or you can drop it down to the lowest stat, but you can't remove it completely until 1 hour after you've left combat.
Which is reasonable.
Yeah.
Because that's not a time for you to polish something. And that's, I think, reflected in the name patch. Like, you're literally just like, smack it with a hammer, does it work? Cool, I'm out.
Yeah, exactly.
I got other stuff to deal with right now.
Exactly.
The engineer is also responsible for the power distribution in this ship. They have an action they can use called divert, which basically allows them to route power to different systems, which, depending on the amount of total power available in the ship and the amount of total power being allocated to an individual system, will grant systems bonuses or like turn them off if they have no power available.
Yeah, so how divert specifically works is it's not actually removing power from one section and putting it to the other. It's basically you're finding extra power to give to one specific section. So it's not like you're cutting power completely to shields to give a bonus to the science desk, right? It's just basically like, I'm giving this, it's kind of like the equivalent of the captain's buff.
It's more like, not like turning off other systems, but like, oh, the coffee machine on this deck is still on, so I'm gonna turn that off.
Yeah, if you want to do like flavor wise, yeah. But the idea, like for an example, for the gunner, you can divert power to the gunner. So when they attack, for every 1 that they roll, it's counted as if it were a 2, which doesn't sound like much, but at the same time, it's also doubling the damage.
Yeah.
But it can also send additional shields. It can give bonuses to the science area. The kind of key to this is that there is no limit to the number of engineers that you have.
Right.
But again, they only each have 1 action. So you can literally have someone diverting power. You can have one of them patching a piece of equipment. You can have one person holding it together. You can have multiple people patching the same thing so that the actions take less rounds for you to succeed.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of really interesting aspects to the engineer, and there's actually a lot more moves that the engineer can do. But I think there'd be way longer of a video than it needs to be. You know, same with the captain. The captain has abilities that they gain at level 6 and level 12 that improve their skills.
Yeah. I think going over each ability in minutia is not really like super beneficial. Like, it's important to understand that the captain can attack, or not attack, the captain can act on any phase, and that their role is a support role, basically. They're there to, you know, manipulate stats. The engineer's there to take care of the ship. They're more reactive in nature. They're repairing, they're diverting things around. They're not proactive, they're not moving the ship, they're not firing the guns.
Correct.
Oh, hey, speaking of guns, the thing everybody's been waiting for, Mr. Pew Pew Man himself.
Now, there can only be one gunner per weapon on your ship. So that's kind of key, because that kind of changes how you build your team and how you move things
It also
around.
like makes sense.
Yes, it completely does. The gunner can also only work during the gunnery phase.
Because it's named after the role of the...
Yeah.
I'm sensing a pattern.
Now, there are two main abilities that it can do.
Is one of them shoot a gun?
One of them is in fact called shoot.
Hey!
The other one is called fire at will.
Ooh.
Pew 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 pew.
So fire at will is an ability where the gunner can actually take two separate guns in two separate arcs and fire them at the exact same time, but with a -4 penalty on top of it.
Kind of like a multi-attack sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, oh crap, it's I'm being surrounded. I've got multiple bogeys. Like, let's do this. Like, or if you know that if it's a bunch of smaller enemies, there's a bunch of different reasons why you would use this.
I like how there's like two really fun flavor options for this, because it's either like the gunner's so good at manipulating the like huge honking guns at their disposal that are super complicated that they like do this really fancy code and like make it fire the way it's not supposed to fire. It's like using too much power or something. Or you can imagine that he's just smashing a button really fast. Just one button, one big red, just like go! I'm gonna pick the second one.
And then shoot is you choose a single weapon and you fire it.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean,
like, there's not really a lot to talk about here because the guns are going to determine what you're rolling, right? Because that's what they're there for.
exactly.
If you're confused about what arcs are, remember when we told you about that other video? We talked about arcs there.
Next is the pilot. Now the pilot is going to be moving or taking their action on the helm phase.
Ooh, it's not called the pilot phase.
It's not because
pattern broken.
Because there are multiple people that work during that same phase. Now the pilot is going to fly, which is move up to their movement speed.
Good.
Or do a stunt, which is a bunch of different things. Like
Always a barrel roll.
there is in fact a barrel roll option. Each of the different stunts has different reasoning behind them.
Yeah.
It makes it harder for enemies to hit. Like there's an evade option, stuff like that. The key thing is that the pilot is always going to make a pilot roll.
Sure.
Right? And with that pilot roll, it's going to be opposed to all the other enemy pilots.
Right.
The person with the lowest number is actually going to go first.
Right.
So it's kind of opposite of normal initiative,
Yeah.
where highest number goes first and then it goes backwards. The reason for that is that as you go later in the action, you actually get better placement because you know where the other ship is going to end up.
Yes, and if you remember the arc conversation that we had that you went and watched, positioning is really important. Like down to the direction your ship is facing during combat. Very, very important because of those arcs. Those arcs are going to partially determine what you can and can't hit with which weapons on a given turn. And so by going last, you know that this person is going to be there in this moment. And so you can position yourself to shoot them and then shoot them.
With the preferred weapon that you have.
Exactly.
And in a better position on like whether you know what sides of the shields you've already hit your enemy.
Yes, they're not going to move the shields around on you. There's
and some stuff that we've moved in, like that we haven't talked about yet with the science officer, but like knowing that the enemy has put full shields in the front, allows you to know, I'm going to move behind them so that I can fire behind them and take them out.
Yep.
Like easier because I'm not having to fight against a shield.
Yep.
So it's
think of it like healers in normal like Pathfinder combat. The healer wants to go last so that there's damage to heal.
Yeah.
If they go first, like, okay, I'm gonna ready an action to heal this person if they take damage, like, great, terribly exciting turn.
Yeah.
But if somebody's like run into the fight already and needs help, and somebody ran over there and needs help, that's an interesting turn. Now you decide where you're going, who you're healing, what spells you're using, like, perfect.
Yeah, no, I really enjoy, because when I first read this, I was like, that doesn't make sense, and then I played it, and I was like, oh, that makes perfect sense, yeah.
Next is the science officer, the fucking nerd. They have a couple of actions. The first one is scan, which is going to allow them to basically learn information about their opponents in a specific order, which I think is really interesting. So there's a list of things that they can learn, and they kind of escalate in, I guess, complexity and usefulness. And so as you succeed a check against the same target, you go from the least useful thing, and then the second time you succeed, you get the next piece of information that's more useful. And so on and so forth until you've just like learned everything there is to know about that target.
Yeah.
And then you just proceed. There's basic information, defenses, weapons, load, and other.
The other key aspect of the science officer is that they're also going to go on the helm phase, which is the same phase of the pilot.
Right.
Now, whatever actions that they take, they need to make a decision whether it's going to happen before or after the pilot.
Gotcha.
Like, you can't take like half an action before and then the rest of the action afterwards. Like,
so they have to take all of their actions.
all one of them.
All, yeah, okay. That's true.
I mean, hold on. Take a step back. The captain can, in fact, give someone an additional action at higher levels.
Yes.
But the thing is that whatever actions that you have, your economy of actions all need to happen either before or after.
There's
the
no
pilot.
splitting. The same way in normal combat, you can't split up turns like that,
Exactly.
right? I mean, holding an action is a different story, but like this also isn't the same thing as being on your own with your own armor, like you're in a ship working together. So
the other option for the science officer is target system. Now, how this works is that they're going to make a computer check, right? And on a successful check, they're going to choose a specific system of the enemy ship. And then whenever your next gunnery check hits a ship and it rolls a 19 or a 20, all of that critical damage happens to that specific
targeted system.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
And then any addition or any damage over it would then affect normally, which is random specific. The thing about this skill check is that it's only for the very next attack that you make.
Right.
And so you're basically going, I'm going to spend my turn hoping that my gunnery rolls a 19 or a 20.
Which seems a little RNG-y.
Yeah, like I hope that you roll 10% of, I've got a 10% chance of you.
Of my turn mattering.
Yeah.
And it doesn't do anything otherwise, right? There's not like some like consolation prize. Like, oh, if it doesn't roll 19 or 20, it does an extra damage or something.
It's just that if they roll a 19 or 20, they get... It's also really strong because you can also specifically target like weapons and stuff like that.
I super get that like it's a 10% chance to change the tide of battle, but it's also a 10% chance of making any impact at all. Like if something was gonna get changed, I'd say this is a good like starting place.
Yeah,
not that I know what they should do instead.
Yeah,
by any means.
I mean, I think something that would be interesting is that instead of having the player roll a 19 or 20, kind of pull something from Pathfinder 2nd Edition, which is if their gunnery check is 10 higher, then they're...
You're so smart. That's good.
Because then you could stack this up. You go, okay, I'm hedging my bets on the gunnery, that the gunnery's gonna do a critical hit. And then your captain's like, hey, I demand you to shoot this, gives you a +4 bonus, and then you roll.
Yep. That's how it works. It brings everyone together to shit on a specific ship.
Yeah.
And then if the captain's like, hey, that's really dumb. Something changed between the time that you rolled and now this opportunity to give them a +4, I have to use my action somewhere else. Then, one, there's still a chance for it to do something. And two, like, that is the fun of combat, is adapting to situations, being like, okay, I can use my action now and prevent this thing from happening potentially, or I can wait and we can potentially just one-shot their guns and then we'll be good. Like, we won't have to worry about this fight anymore.
Well,
that high-risk, high-reward scenario that's been created by another player, I think is super rewarding for everyone involved. Super tense before you figure out how it's going to play out. Like, it's good. That's great.
Well, and you're taking up 3 actions to do this.
Yeah.
Right? The thing is that while they're having critical damage, their engineer still has options to make the guns work the next round.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, so it doesn't go, oh, one-shot kill. And I get that would be the idea. It's like, oh, one-shot KO, we win. All I got to do is the same thing.
Yeah,
on every
it's not, a one-shot kill is a little bit hyperbolic.
No, and
but it's like one shot, they are stressed out now. Like, that is a huge amount
And here's the thing,
responsibility.
they can do the same thing to you.
Yes.
Now, the reason why that also is interesting is based off of how rounds and phases actually works.
Cool.
Which is the next thing that we're going to go into. Rounds are very similar to how rounds work in Pathfinder and D&D, which is once everyone goes, that's a whole round.
Nice. Easy.
Now, the difference is that rounds usually are like, this is 6 seconds of real-life time. A round in ship combat is no specific amount of time. It's just however long it takes you guys to finish all 3 of your phases.
Okay. The first phase is the engineering phase. This is going to be when all of the engineers on all of the ships act.
Yes.
They're not necessarily affecting one another, right? They're just kind of like doing things within the ship that they are on. And so it's not really, I think, terribly important for there to be any sort of order.
No.
And so there isn't.
Yeah, it happens first, but all happens at the exact same time. And, and the way that this kind of happens, even with it multiple phases, it's supposed to imply that all of these things are all happening at the exact same time.
Right.
But they have to happen based off of actions within combat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
hard to simulate a simultaneous event when it's not a simultaneous event because there's one GM and they can't absorb 7 pieces of information at the same time. That's not how brains work.
Exactly. Next is the
helm phase,
which is where the pilot check is done and you determine who gets to go first and who gets to go last. Now this happens on every single
helm phase.
So it's not like
one initiative at the beginning of the round or of the combat.
Exactly. So each round gets its own piloting change, which is very important because you might roll poorly, but you're not screwed for the rest of the combat.
Yeah, and it gives your captain the opportunity to help you for the second round if you do really poorly on the first round, or if after the first round you recognize the fact that even though you rolled really well, they still got to go first. Maybe I should help you.
Exactly. The reason why they call it the helm phase is because the science officer also gets to go during this time.
We already said that.
Which, again, has to either happen before or after the pilot. Just pick one. I mean, the reason it's important is because you can make a scan beforehand and to get a piece of information so you know what's the better positioning, or you can get into a better position and cause some havoc.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like move your shields because, oh, we've moved, which means we need to move things around.
Right.
And instead of protecting our front where we thought we needed it, we need to balance it and make everything equal.
Yep. Last phase is the gunner phase. This is where you're actually going to be dealing damage. The gunners are going to go in the same order that the pilots went.
Yes.
So it's not on the same phase, but if pilot for ship A went first and pilot for ship B went second, gunner for ship A goes first, gunner for ship B goes second. Because that damage order is also important.
Sort of, because even if you do enough damage to disable your enemy's ship, they still get to do damage to you.
Right.
And it's all calculated at the very end of the phase. So you may be good, you're like, I disabled them, but at the same time they might also disable you.
Yeah, it's the difference between like, are you going to use your captain's action to help the gunner on this phase or not? Like that small bit of informational advantage, I think. I mean, maybe it's not the most important thing in the world, but there still is a bit of informational advantage for the order there.
Yeah.
Especially if you're doing it with other people.
Well, and technically, if the captain hasn't taken their action yet, they've not taken
That's
an
true.
action.
They're probably still going to take it anyways because they wasted if not.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I think the reason for the order in which that you do damage is important, just to keep it organized and keep it clean.
Maybe, yeah.
You know, instead of just being like, okay, you went first, you went second, you went third, and then go, okay, you attack first, you attack second, you attack third. It's just keep it clean, keep it the same way each time. After the gunnery phase, after the gunnery is finished and you've disabled or done your damage, if you're still in combat, you then go right back to the first phase and you just repeat over and over and over again.
Sleep, rave, repeat.
Eat, sleep, pilot, repeat.
Yeah.
That's the basics of combat. There's a bunch of different things that we could potentially go into, different types of weapons, how they affect different things.
The ship builds in general could be like a billion videos.
Yeah. There's so much. And the fact is that for every adventure book that Paizo releases for Starfinder, there's a new ship that's in them.
A new class of ship.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Like it's a huge.
There's tons of stuff, and it's like, I think we said this, or I said this in the last episode. It's a unique experience to rely on other people the way that you rely on other people in ship combat. Like not being able to move your feet in combat and relying on someone else to like roll initiative for you and move for you, and you are just like, I'm going to do the damage and I'm going to do it the best I can, and I expect this pilot guy to take me to the place I need to be to do the damage, or I'm gonna be pissed. Like, it is a unique experience that I think, especially if you're like a good group of friends, I think is a great place to learn about each other, and like just kind of fun. Like it has its own unique feeling of really funness.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's literally one person's controlling the arms, one person's controlling the feet, one person's controlling the eyes, and if you're not working together, you're walking into the wall.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, that's just how it's going to happen.
And there's the captain, who is just the guy who's there to be frustrated.
Yeah, exactly.
That is their job, to be like, I can't help you with that. You suck too much.
Feet, I told you to stop. I even gave you a bonus. Do I have to start demanding you to stop?
I will say, me personally, I think that this system, would be better if you treat it like there's an actual hierarchy in place. Like if you treat it as though these people have to listen to the captain. Sure. I think it still remains fun, even though you're kind of removing agency from some players. But you're really not. It just kind of becomes a big deal in role-playing when you don't listen to the captain, and it's really fun. That, like, creating that situation in times where it matters, I think is genuinely a really fun role-playing situation. And I highly recommend you play that way if you have the opportunity to do this at some point.
There's also, I mean...
assuming it makes sense with the rest of your campaign, obviously.
Kind of going back from that, there's actually really fun ship combat games that I've played with Josh before. Where
we've played it together.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of it.
I can't either.
I'm going to try to Google it and put it up here. But it was super fun, and that's basically how it worked.
Yeah.
Is like, each person had a different role, and they gave the captain, like, this is what I need, give me this, and the captain was rolling dice, and be like, cool, you get this, you get that, you get this, and then like, they're having to like determine what is more important in what roles and what positions. Like, oh yeah, do I give you the missile so that you can attack, or should I be defensive for one shot and then give you the it was really interesting. I don't know why I diverted to that, but it was really
because
cool.
It's fun.
It's really fun.
We just want you to have fun.
Games are awesome.
Yeah.
Anyways, why don't you head down to the comments and let us know if this video was helpful, if there's a part of ship combat specifically that you want us to go over, or if there's just something in Starfinder in specific that you want us to go through.
Or if there's just something that you want us to go over.
Yeah, just, you know what? Well, I mean, I'm going to stick away from anatomy, but or science. I'm really bad at that. Head down in the comments, let us know, and then make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button.
We got demonetized.
Oh, damn it.
Yeah.
Well, if you like us and you subscribe to us, it's not going to matter because we'll have friends. And then go over to Twitter and talk to us. You can talk to me on Twitter at IndigoQT.
You can talk to me on Twitter at QueueTimes. You can also talk to both of us at all of these social media things. We'll see you next time.